Hey there! Welcome to Media, the podcast where we talk about VCE media and media education in general. My name's Brett Lamb, and in this episode, we are at Federation Square at the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, and we're joined by a great bunch of people. I've got my very creative and wonderful Year 12s here, and we have an East Doncaster Secondary College media legend. We're joined by Dan Wallace today.
Hello, thank you. I don't know about legend, but I'll take it.
Oh, absolute legend. So, Dan is a recent graduate of the VCA, where he's got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Screenwriting. His works appeared in a number of film festivals, most recently the Warrandyte Film Festival, and was a winner of the 2019 48-hour film festival in Melbourne, and found himself overseas pre-pandemic to celebrate that win. So really wonderful work, and that's Dan's work in Year 12 was wonderful as well. He made a little film called The Folly of Woman, which was a really entertaining little commentary on gender roles, and was a really polished short film. So I'm really pleased to have Dan here today. So I guess my first question is, cast your mind back to Year 12 when you were making that film. And can you tell us where you got the inspiration for that movie and where your inspiration comes from now?
So Year 12, everybody knows, is kind of the year where all the 18th parties and stuff happen. So I didn't like beer at the time. It's very simple. And I was a full-blown cider man. I was made fun of it by a lot of people, my friends and enemies at parties alike. Some other of my friends would pull me aside and be like, "Hey man, I know what it's like. I also like cider." And I just drink beer because, everyone would make fun of me if I didn't. And then some other guy said that his dad would throw him out if he got caught drinking a cider, which I hope was a joke for his sake. But, I was just like, I don't know. I just thought I thought I was being super clever and making a film about it. But since I've been to a lot of film festivals, there's pretty much always one that's around about the same idea that I did. So in the end, it actually wasn't that original, but at the time I thought I was nailing it.
No, it was. I think it was a really interesting commentary on gender roles. So I'm going to give a link to you guys to take a look at the film when you get back to school. It's about two people meet in a cafe and they're ordering drinks, and this guy just wants to enjoy a really pretty
delicious
kind of
fruity beverage.
Who
doesn't?
With little umbrellas in it and stuff like that. And that's perfectly manly. So that was where the inspiration, that little interaction that you had, was the inspiration for your Year 12 film. At the moment, you make a huge range of diverse kind of content. I would say mainly comedies. Can you tell us where you get your ideas for that, just sort of in general terms?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that I'm always interested by people and what people are doing. So, like, if you're ever just out in public, or you're on public transport, or you just kind of always just look for something that's happening that is funny. Like, even just the fact that right now they've chosen to set up music directly behind the conversation that we're having. That's hilarious. That's a moment. That's very funny. And so there's just always look for moments like that, or peculiarities in conversation, or I don't know, when you're at a party and somebody says something and it's kind of weird and you're like, what did you mean by that? And I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. Also, for a slightly smarter answer, read books and stuff. Like, if you're ever uninspired, just read or watch TV shows or talk to your friends or go to a museum and look at art. Like, everything is really inspiring. Just there's always something to find in something.
That is really awesome advice. Now, once you've got an idea, obviously when you're making any type of film, pre-production is tremendously important. So can you tell us a little bit about the process that you go through when you're planning any type of film?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that I do when I'm working in pre-production. The first thing that I'll do is I'll do a script breakdown where I will sort of go through and visualize what the shots are going to look like. So if it's conversation, I'll do like camera one over shoulder shot of character, and then the flip side, and then maybe a wider shot and what that's going to look like. It's kind of like like storyboarding, but more just like on a visual. I mean, on a mental level. And then I go through and I put those into a shot list. I always had trouble with shot listing. I wasn't sure how much to put in the shot, how much of what's happening in the film to describe. like in the shot list, and so I'd end up having a shot list note that was like a paragraph and a half, because it would just be describing what's actually happening in the shot, which I already know because I've got the script. So if you pair a shot list together with a script breakdown or a storyboard or whatever you're going to do, it helps a lot. And that's the thing that I actually use on the set, is the shot list when you're strapped for time, as you always are when you're on set, as you guys all know because you've all been on set before. It's a really good document just to know we're doing this and then this and then this, and you can check them all off. The last thing that I'll do is, especially if it's a film that has a lot of movement in the scene, like We Don't Want Your Chicken Nuggets is kind of set in a green room, and it has 3 actors constantly moving around. So I did a blocking sheet, which is like a blocking plan. So if you guys don't know what blocking is, it's all the way the actors move in a space. And so this is like a bird's eye view. It had a general idea of where the characters are going to be at what parts of the scene, and therefore where the cameras can be in order to capture the action. And it just really helps to kind of like tidy up a shot and make everything not look like characters and actors don't know where they're doing or what they're doing. So
you do lots of preparation before going out to shoot.
Yeah.
Do you actually do any rehearsal with your actors as well?
I did one rehearsal. The thing is, at the level that I'm at, and also at the level that you guys are at the moment, the people that you're asking to act, and also the people that you've got sort of like on set, everyone's doing it for a favor, everyone's doing it for free, everyone's taking their time out of their day to help you with something that is yours. I don't, if you can get rehearsal, and if you have friends who will do that for you, absolutely do it. It will always be better than you possibly can. But it's just, if you don't have the time to do that, being as well prepared as you possibly can to help them with what they have to do is going to make you have the best film that you can.
Amazing. So when it comes to year 12 media, one of the things that we do is a little bit of production experimentation. So we pick up cameras and we go out and shoot something just to get, to make some mistakes, so that when we go and make our film, we're hopefully not going to make those mistakes again. Can you tell us a little bit about the experimentation that you did in year 12 and how that maybe benefited you?
Yeah, I think in year 12, I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I did just like a over-shoulder shot dialogue conversation, which, kind of helped because my film was a lot of talking, but also I feel like I kind of wasted the opportunity. Experiments are a really good chance to kind of get your hands on some equipment that, at EDSC, there's some pretty good equipment that costs quite a bit of money that you might not be able to afford in the next couple of years when you're funding it yourself. If you can get your hands on it and use it and understand how to use it, and that's a really great experience. Even just things like, I think, did you say you had gimbals? So
we've got some mobile gimbals, and we've got DJI Pocket Osmos, which are really good for fluid dolly shots and stuff like that. So
things like dolly shots, that's something that I didn't use in my film, that if I was going back, I'd figure out, I don't know how to use a gimbal because I'm not usually the one holding the camera. But that's a really good opportunity. So if you've got, I don't know, a scene of 2 people sitting at a table having a conversation, that's kind of a boring shot. But even just slowly pushing in on that with a gimbal and just getting some movement is immediately just gives life to the film. So there's things like that. The other thing that I would say is, going back to blocking, the idea, that's kind of like, it's sort of a cross-discipline thing, blocking. It's actually like quite a big theatre term for all of you guys who would be doing theatre. So doing rehearsals of blocking, maybe just stick a camera and just get an idea of the space. But if you ever need advice on blocking, don't be afraid to go to like your drama teacher or maybe some actors that either in school or outside of school. They'll be able to help you, and they will absolutely help your film get significantly better. Is Alana Bowick still at
absolutely
drama? Go to her because she's awesome and she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. And when it comes to blocking as well, I am going to force you to make storyboards because I'm evil, basically. But one of the quickest ways to do that is if you're shooting on a DSLR, to pick up that DSLR and literally take photos of your actors or stand-ins for your actors in that space. So it's a really quick way to do those storyboards. But what you're practicing then as well is the blocking, where the camera's going to be, where the actors are going to be, and you're getting your head around it. If you're shooting on your mobile phone, use your mobile phone. It's a really quick and easy way to do storyboards, and it helps you so much.
It does. It saves a lot of time. And when you're directing, I don't know if you guys have done, maybe you shot a year 11 film, maybe you haven't. When you're directing people, even if it's only 3 or 4 people, there's a lot of responsibility on you. And just being as prepared as possible. So if you know where the cameras need to be, you can tell your camera person, or if you're shooting the camera, you can just set it up really quickly. It's going to save a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of stress off of you. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, Dan's just finished talking about all of the planning that you do. And it is really important because you want to be sure when you're on set about what you're going to do. And I think from an actor's perspective, it can be very frustrating if the director doesn't quite know or hasn't quite decided how they're going to shoot or organize a scene.
I had a DOP. His name's Shortcut. He's very, very good. He's way above my level. He's a friend of my friend of my brother's actually, and he shot on he gets paid to actually shoot stuff. Like he shot on Fisk with Kitty Flanagan. He shot that. He's just very, very good. And he came in and did one of my films for free. I was directing him, and he said, I don't care what you tell me to do, as long as you know what you're doing, I'll be able to do my job. And it was true, and that's the best advice that I can possibly pass on, is from him.
Indeed. So the other day we were talking about, just going back to that idea of equipment and the equipment that you guys have available, we were talking a bit about sound and how important that is. Do you want to maybe share your thoughts on sound?
Yeah, sound is kind of sucks because it's one of those ones that if you do it really well, you don't notice. Like you just are watching it and you're like, wow, there's no crackling and no distorted noise and nobody's too quiet. Pay as much attention to sound as you possibly can. That's another one probably in the production exercises that you could do. Get someone to swing a boom, get as much audio as you possibly can. Don't settle for second best. If you're shooting in a spot like this, you can even just go and quietly tell people, I mean, we're not going to do it for an interview, but if you're shooting a film, you can just be like, hey guys, we're actually shooting a scene. Do you mind if we keep it a little bit down? Be very respectful, obviously, people, especially if it's a public space.
Especially if it's a group of primary school students.
Then be as rude as possible. No, but just sound is really, really important. Also, figure out how to work Adobe Audition. If you guys, I'm assuming that's what you guys are still using on the computers. Adobe Audition's fantastic. There's so many things that you can do, noise cancellation and things like that as well. If worst case scenario, you've got the best take that you've got is still really loud, that's another thing that you can do in production exercise. Just practice, just get as much done as you can.
Yeah, and I should emphasize that even if you don't have access to great microphones, you can do a whole lot to control the situation and get a nice clean signal. Getting the camera nice and close to your actors is really important as well. And you guys have access to pretty good shotgun microphones in blimps with wombats on them to reduce wind noise and stuff like that. And the great tragedy is people don't use them because they take that little bit of effort. Take that little bit more of effort. They make it a little bit harder to shoot things, but I really, really recommend it. Speaking about the film production process, perhaps generally, it can be very challenging. So what's your advice when it comes to those general challenges?
I think on a film set, there's just so much stuff that's there's so much stuff that's happening, so many moving parts, you're relying on so much different stuff that something is always going to go wrong, no matter what. So the best thing that you can do is just kind of accept that and just be like, whatever it's going to do, I'm going to roll with it. Use your improvisational skills, you've all got them. But also the best way that you can nullify that is to just be as prepared as possible. And maybe something that I still haven't learned but need to learn is don't leave your shooting until the last possible moment, because that way if there is something incredibly unavoidable, like you're shooting an outside scene and it's really, really rainy, or your actor gets COVID or dies or whatever, you can replace them and you'll have time to reshoot and recast and re-rehearse and do all that beautiful stuff. So don't leave shooting to the last moment, please, for the love of God. Yeah,
shoot early, shoot as much as you can.
Yeah.
You've always got time to make other arrangements if you're shooting absolutely nice and early. So we've talked a little bit about planning, we've talked a little bit about shooting. When it comes to post-production, what's your advice for people generally?
I don't know. Post-production, editing is kind of my favorite part other than maybe writing. You have the most control over what you're doing. I like spending late nights editing in my room. I submitted a film to a short film festival, and three or four nights where I stayed up just all night just editing. I also used to use free periods and stay behind as well and do editing in the media room in year 12. I don't know, I don't really have any good advice. I guess just maybe learning things like color correction and again, Adobe Audition. This is all things that, I don't know, you might not think matters, but it makes a massive, massive difference. Again, color correction, if you need a hand with how a shot looks or something, take it to Mr. Lamb, or take a couple screen grabs to an art an art teacher and be like, I want it to look as natural as possible, or I tell them what style you're going for. I want it to look really wacky and weird, like what's the best way to do this, and they might give you tips on contrast and hue and things like that. And I don't know, like this is all stuff that I should have done, but I didn't do, so you guys should do it.
Yeah, you should totally do it.
You should do it.
And I've got some really straightforward tutorials on using Lumetri color just to do some correction and some using adjustment layers to do grades and stuff, which is very straightforward, and it adds that extra polish to your films. So I guess the next question is, we've talked a little bit about sound. Where do you source the music for your shorts?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody loves free sound and Ben sound and all the royalty-free music and all those sound effects and things like that. So they're always good. A thing that I have sort of found out in the last couple of years is that there's a lot of Facebook pages like Film and TV Australia and things like that, which is a lot of filmmakers just across Australia and sometimes internationally as well, who will do a lot of things for you if you ask them. There are so many sound composition students or people who have literally studied sound composition for 3+ years at somewhere like VCA who just need experience or just love doing what they're doing. And if you post like, hey, I'm a student, I'm making a student film, I would love somebody to create a custom soundtrack for me, here's the plot or whatever, and then I don't know, some people will probably message you. The other thing is, I don't know, this is maybe another example of an exercise you could do, but if you really, really want something awesome, creating some Foley sound where you record your own sound to add for sound effects, it would be really cool. That's where they use like celery stick snapping for the sound of bones and cooking bacon as the sound of rain and stuff. That's probably a lot of effort. I probably wouldn't do it, but if you feel like it, give it a go.
Oh, totally give it a go. I think when it comes to sound, increasingly I've just decided that the sound you get on location is probably not going to be the best. No. And I encourage people to include Foley for everything. So every footstep, every ruffle of fabric and all of those sorts of things. And if you mix it properly, it sounds so much better than real life.
And that's the thing with sound as well. As like I said, like when it's good, you don't notice it. But if it's not there, you might not notice it, but it will feel off. And if you're watching a film and it's slightly too silent and you're like, what is this? Like, it just feels really weird. And it's just probably because you are expecting this to make a slight noise. And if it doesn't make a slight noise, then your brain's kind of going, something's kind of weird. And then it just kind of ruins the film.
Absolutely. And my other little piece of advice as well is we have access to artlist.io at school. You can take those tracks, and Audition has this wonderful feature called remixing, where you can take, say, a 3-minute song and you can adjust its duration. So it takes all of the little peaks and stuff and it just shortens that piece of music, and it works really well. When it comes to custom soundtracks as well, I know that there are people in this class who are wonderful musicians. So you should be leaning on them and asking them to write music. We have teachers who are, scoring stuff at the moment. So lean on your friends who are terrific musicians as well to get that custom score, because it's really tremendously important and it adds so much to the film.
You might be able to kill two birds with one stone as well, because there might be some kind of music. If anybody's studying music, maybe an assignment where you have to do something like compose a project, and you might be able to just hook somebody in, and so that their best interest is going to be to make it as good as possible as well, because it's going to impact their piece. So that would be a good way to hook your friend into helping you.
Now, this is something we didn't talk about the other day, but when you're done with a cut, do you run it past anyone? Do you screen it for particular people to get a little bit of feedback?
Yeah. I do a lot of work with my brother and also a mutual friend of ours, Larry. And so if ever I need to get their take on something, I'll show it to them. But also, sometimes it is fun, just especially if you're pretty confident with what you've got. It is also fun just to kind of wait for the big reveal and be like, I made this thing, and then So I guess it's up to you. If you back yourself.
Yeah, and we're going to...
Or show Mr. Lamb.
Oh, yeah, we do a screening of... we'll do a screening of your work later in the year, and we'll all watch it and we'll all critique it.
Please
but feel free to ignore the bad advice that often comes from me.
Yeah.
Just another question, because these guys are in Year 12, they're thinking about what they're going to be doing in the future. A number of people have expressed an interest in going on to film-related courses and things like that. You've obviously finished your Bachelor of Fine Arts Screenwriting at VCA. What do you think you got out of that degree?
I did VCA screenwriting for 3 years, which is just a campus just literally on the other side of the river. So I got to like come into this part of the city every single day for 3 years. Well, for 2 years, and then COVID happened, but which would have been for 3 years. I got the opportunity to, besides all the fun stuff, like I got to study film and screenwriting, which is like, I've always loved writing. So that in itself is a massive privilege to be able to do. But I made a whole bunch of friends. I'm going next month to Italy with one of them. We're going to drive around Italy for a month. So that's kind of sick. I got to enter a lot of film festivals. There's a Melbourne Uni Film Festival. Every uni will have a film festival. Every TAFE will have a film festival probably. You just got to look for it. But then also things like I got some really interesting opportunities. I got to do a short internship on Neighbours, which was a week long, and I realized that it was way, way, way harder than I thought it was going to be. I started it being like, oh, I'm not going to do Neighbours. Like, that sucks. And I was like, oh, maybe, it's an opportunity to get paid. Maybe I will do Neighbours. And then I went and tried it, and I was like, damn, that is hard. They work like 10-hour days in the writer's room. That sucks. Too much for me. No thanks. I went and did an internship at Village Roadshow. I learned a lot about the marketing side of it and distribution and things like that. Learned how to write coverage, which is so if you're a producer and somebody submits a script, the big producers don't have enough time to read anything really, but they don't have enough time to read every single script. So you just got to read it, give them the general gist of it, whether or not you think it should be funded, whatever. I also got to interview Chris Taylor, who was one of my heroes, my idols. Chases Won Everything. He was the creator of one of my favorite Australian shows called Upright, which I highly recommend if you guys haven't seen it.
It's so good.
With Tim Minchin. It's really, really good. Millie Alcock, she rocks in it, and she's going to be a star. And then I also got things like, I got to speak to a whole bunch of other people, but one of them was Todd Abbott, who is the head of ABC Comedy, which, I probably didn't capitalize on that, but if I had have, boy, things could have been good. But yeah, a lot of opportunities and a lot of fun.
I actually wanted to show Upright to this class last year. I actually made our
good.
assistant principals watch it. It's got a lot of cuss words in it, so I chickened out at the last minute. But it's so good. Go watch it. It's on Foxtel and Binge.
It's so good.
Yeah. So talking about your recent work, so Dan made a film in 2019 in the Melbourne 48-hour film festival called Con, which was a musical about this guy who rips off elderly people and steals their money. Can you tell us a bit about that film?
It's an autobiography.
Yeah. How did it go?
No, my brother and I and our friend Larry, and then also a lot of our other friends who helped us, decided kind of at the last minute to enter the 48-hour film festival. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, the key is in the title. You get a prompt on Friday night. You got to go write, shoot, edit, submit a film by Sunday night. There's one in Melbourne, there's one in Adelaide, sometimes there's one in Brisbane, and then there's one in about 150 cities around the world. You get 2 prompts. We got musical and period piece. We didn't want to do a period piece. My brother Matt is incredibly musical. I'm a little bit musical as well, but he was the one who did all the hard work. Didn't sleep for 2 days, made a film, submitted it, kind of was like, wow, this is kind of good. Like, maybe we'll win. And we did win, and we got $1,000, and then the film played over in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, in this film festival called Filmpalooza, which just had 150, this is the start of 2020, by the way, so it was absolutely a massive super spreader event, because it's people from 150 cities all coming to the same spot, on a boat as well, which was great. Anyway, got the opportunity to show my film in front of an international audience. That was a really, really funny experience, because a lot of our jokes were very Australian because we didn't expect to win. So there were things like Anzac jokes and stuff in there that everyone was kind of like, haha, I don't know what that means, but that's kind of funny. And then then I also got to see a whole bunch of other films. I met some people from Bahrain and Azerbaijan. We met a team from Minnesota that my brother and his production company ended up actually using when they went on a road trip up to Portland. They asked them to shoot something for them, and they did. So it's like, there's so many opportunities. Man, enter some film festivals. Like, do it. It's good. The quality of the films, like, you guys can definitely make some stuff and win some prizes, and sometimes there's some pretty good prizes. So absolutely do that.
Absolutely.
You might go to, overseas and be a super spreader and bring it back at the start of 2020, like I did.
Or something like that. So one of your more recent films, which was completed, I believe, prior to the pandemic, but only just was shown at the Warrandyte Film Festival is We Don't Want Your Chicken Nuggets. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I've got some pre-production planning, some scripts and shot lists from Dan. That's up on Google Drive for you guys to take a look at when we get back.
So I don't know if any of you guys have seen the TV shows like Veep or The Thick of It. They're kind of like political comedy dramas. Lots of fast talking and people trying to be really clever. I tried to be really clever and make my own version of it. I don't think that I quite nailed it. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that film. I got to be totally honest. Like, I'm glad that I made it. I learned a lot out of it, but it's also like, I don't know, watching things that you made like sort of 2 or 3 years ago can sometimes be like, wow, I really thought that was good at the time. But like, I'm glad that I made it. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to show it at a film festival. It was really fun. Weirdly, at the Warrandyte Film Festival, the artist Coolio was there who wrote Gangster's Paradise. I don't know why he was in Warrandyte, but he was, and he saw my film and he told me he hated it. So
okay.
He did not.
Thanks,
That's a lie.
Coolio.
Sorry, Coolio. I wouldn't speak bad about you like
Thanks
that.
for the support. No, amazing. So if you could give these guys, one piece of advice for their filmmaking, their media production, what would it be?
Be prepared. Don't be afraid to do something that you're not sure if you're going to be able to pull off, because you probably will be able to do it. You will be able to do it, in fact. Absolutely. I have 100% confidence in all of you, even though I haven't met you before. Hello, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you. Also, like, be imaginative about it. Please, I know you'll back me up on this, please don't do a film that starts with an alarm going off and you getting out of bed and then you brushing your teeth and then you eating toast. Please, for the love of God, do not do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. You can be so much more imaginative than that. It's like, just do anything else, essentially, than that. There's just, I don't know, this is a great opportunity. I am happy to read any scripts that you guys send me, and I will give you notes on them if you want them, under one circumstance, that you enter it into top screen. Is that a thing that you can do still?
Yeah, we can totally do that.
Then,
in fact, we do. We enter in top screen.
Good. So. Well, if you enter it into enter it into top screen and top screen at the same time.
Enter it into both of those.
I'm happy to if you want it, I'll read a script.
Okay.
I'll do it. I don't care.
I think you've probably got a lot of reading coming your way.
Good.
Thank you so much for that. Now we've got time for some questions. What are your burning questions, guys?
I think everybody who has accepted the opportunity to come onto your film set is going to understand that whatever you're doing is for the best. It's your film. Like, you want it to be the best as possible. So I don't know if anybody would actually believe that you were being mean unless you were actually being mean. So maybe just don't be mean. You don't look like a mean person, but like, I don't know, maybe you've got a deadly streak. But no, like, if anything, like, being firm and just being like, if you're ever worried about that, maybe pull everybody aside at the start and be like, I'm going to be direct. If you feel like I'm coming across as, I don't know, being a bit too firm or whatever, let me know. I'm not trying to do it. Just open communications. But honestly, I don't think that will be a problem. I think that people will understand what you're talking about, and firmness is good. So be direct and tell people what you want, because it is your film. So.
Yeah, and I think from the outset, if you let people know this is important to you, it's really crucial that you film it well, they'll probably be more inclined to do the right thing and maybe not mess around.
Yeah.
So, be polite, be assertive.
How do you manage your time?
No, that's a good question. Time is obviously super important with things like lighting and things like that. So I'll speak into the microphone. Timing is really important. If you have maybe quite a punctual friend, you can have a first AD, somebody who's going to be beside you with a stopwatch, and, well, maybe not necessarily a stopwatch, but keeping an eye on the time, and that's their job, because sometimes when you're directing you can get a bit lost in it, and if you've got somebody worrying about time for you that you trust, it takes a lot of the stress off. We have a really good first AD, and she is just like, it's like bargaining with her as to whether or not you have time for the next show. You'd be like, I just need to get this one more time, and she'd be like, You've got one more, and then we're moving on. That's it. And then like, having a good first AD that you can trust, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, just if you've got good shot listing and how, you can go through and you can plan it and just be just be true to your plan.
My advice is, when you're on a film set, the temptation is to have the perfectly lit teapot. So you spend all morning getting that shot of the teapot, which doesn't actually matter for the story, and you leave 2 hours for shooting that important dialogue scene. So you've got to be pretty brutally efficient and just tick things off and get them done. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When it comes to writing dialogue, how do you go about it to make it sound like normal people talking and not stiff?
Yeah. No, that's a really, really good question. I mean, honestly, like, after 3 years of screenwriting, I still am not 100% sure. Like, nobody can ever be really sure. I would say leaving... one of the things that I always find really awkward is sort of like the throwaway lines like mate and hi, like not hi, everybody says hi, like mate and bloke and whatever you're going to put in there, or using swear words unnecessarily, things like that. It can feel really unnatural. Leave that up to, if you're directing it as well, absolutely leave that up to the actor. But there was a exercise that we did in uni that what we would do is I told my friends that I was going to at some point record one of our conversations, and I was going to use it only for me and not for anything else. If you just even if you just say, I'm going to record this conversation right now, and then we're going to talk about something for 20 minutes, if you can just find a sort of a brief 2 or 3 minute and just transcribe it into a script format. And including all the ellipsis and all of the dots and whatever, all of the stutters, like what I'm doing now, like when people answer questions, they don't always just go, oh, that's, and then just exactly what they mean, intention, whatever. People ramble. I ramble a lot. There's garden pathing in conversation, and people do not always say exactly what they mean. Think about subtext. Think about, if a character's talking about something, are they really saying what they mean? Are they really saying what they truly think? How would, if they have something that they would rather say, is that coming through the conversation a little bit? Like, are people hesitating before they say things? Just, yeah, I don't know. It's a really hard one, but yeah, a lot of it as well comes down to direction and acting as well. You read some scripts of real films and you just go, wow, that doesn't. If I read that line, that would sound terrible. But because the actor knows their character so well, they can kind of get an interpretation of it as well. So there's a lot of things, but the verbatim activity, which is where you record thing, that's a really, really useful one, and I love that. And just listen to people as well. Just listen on the bus and listen to weird ways that people speak, and if somebody is doing something strange, remember it.
I like that advice about subtext as well. So most of the time, people don't say what they're actually thinking, and
Absolutely.
there's a reason for that, and it all comes back to characters and their motivation and all of those sorts of things. So dialogue can be super fun, but it is super challenging. And one of the things that I observe about some students' dialogue is they try to be very wordy and poetic in the way that Tarantino is. Tarantino's great. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to write dialogue with that kind of rhythm. So be aware of that. I'm not saying don't try it, but be aware of it. It's a super challenging thing to do.
Yeah, and a lot of the time in film and with dialogue, less is more. So if you've got a line that says, to quote the great film The Room, I did not hit her, I did not do it, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, or whatever the line is, that he's just saying I didn't do it. Like, just and that in itself, if you say I didn't do it, and then just like, what do you do with that? So be careful about repeating lines. Like, less is more is honestly really good advice. Like, if it can be said in one sentence, that's probably going to be a really effective sentence. I don't know. Subtext is great.
Yeah, subtext is great.
Subtext is great.
Speech is about getting something that you want, and people often speak in the most concise way possible. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been wonderful to hear about your success and to hear about your filmmaking advice. Can you guys give Dan a warm round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That is very warm.